The one thing you don't want to do is face your own mortality. The one thing that you must do is deliver a will. What is a will? Warren Ingram, certified financial planner.
A will is a kind of a strict legal document that dictates what happens to your assets on your death. It will cover a bit more than that. If you're a parent, for example, it will also dictate what should happen to your children, who should they be looked after by on your death, and then it will get into some fairly mundane but important details like should you be buried or should you be cremated. So around the world, wills are tightly regulated in terms of what constitutes a valid will, and don't think that if you've watched enough movies about lawyers or by lawyers that you know what a will is. Wills in every country are very strictly regulated. There's an enormous amount of case law that will dictate when a will is valid, when it isn't, and the like.
Being absolutely clear in terms of what your wishes are as to how your assets should be cared for once you are no longer there to care for them, in a way that is for the benefit of your beneficiaries.
Wherever you are in the world, if you die without a valid will, you're leaving responsibility for your children or your beneficiaries of your will. You're leaving a responsibility to some sort of functionary, whether it's a government official or somebody out there who may not know you at all, doesn't really care. It's now just their job to take your life's assets and then distribute them in the fairest way they know how, and it might be completely contrary to what you would have wanted, what your intent was.
And it takes a long time to do, Warren, and that's the problem. I mean, just tidying up even the most organized estate takes years.
And if classic situation with two life partners, one dies and the other one becomes destitute because they're stuck in a situation where there is money available, but it's stuck in an estate that isn't being wound up. And they're forced out of the home that they were living in because actually that was in their partner's name. All of those things can and do happen all the time because people wanted to save a bit of money on not paying for a proper will, or they were simply too lazy to get it done.
Or too fearful, frankly, to get it done, or to want to face their own mortality. It's the most selfish act any human being can have. What do you say to people who say, well, I don't have very much, a couple of hundred or whatever the case is, maybe a few thousand, maybe a couple of 100,000, depending on the currency regime you're in. They can sort it out amongst themselves. It's grossly irresponsible.
If you are considered an adult in your country, that means you need a will. It doesn't matter if you have no assets and you only have debts. You might have some possessions that are completely worthless to anybody else, but might be incredibly valuable to someone you love who would really appreciate them on your death.
Talk to me about what we need to do now. If you have a will, review it. Know where it is. Tell your beneficiaries where the will is. Have it in place. You don't have to tell them what's in it, but you certainly, an adult would do that as well. Discuss it, saying, oh, you would like the Rembrandt. All right, well, then you have the Picasso, whatever it might be, depending on your assets. Have the discussion. Be open about it. You've got nothing to lose.
And I think that that's exactly right. Make sure you've got a will. Make sure it's valid. If you last had a will done 10 years ago and you've now got married and you have children, it's probably time to change your will. So make sure that the will is still appropriate for your life as it is today.
And if you got divorced and you don't want to leave them anything, make sure that you've updated it on that perspective as well. Thank you, Warren Ingram, certified financial planner.